This video is sponsored by Into the AM. Hey guys, Jay here, welcome to Models Memories Weekly, episode 249. Models Memories is a show about nothing and is filmed in front of a live studio audience. This is a show where we're talking about painting, modeling, and wearing experiences from the week. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Jay, you put out 3 videos a week. How could I possibly have more to say? Well, I do, and here goes. This week, I was thinking a lot about the state of Warhammer 40,000 10th edition, and I was thinking about some of these really cool graphic tees available from today's sponsor. Whenever I head out to a miniatures convention, usually wearing one of my awesome Into the AM graphic tees, I see a ton more of these cool shirts in the crowd. Into the AM is the place to find high quality, awesome artwork on some comfortable clothing. Into the AM is here to give you that look and feel you've been searching for. They offer a huge selection of every kind of clothing you could need. Shirts, denim jeans, joggers, briefs, flannels, jackets, and their item I love the most, graphic t-shirts. T-shirts like the Infinity Explorer graphic tee. This one has a sweet melancholy feel to it. Bourbon Voyage pullover hoodie. This one's really nice and warm. Heart of the Wild graphic tee. My Smoky Mountain parents really love this one. And the Space Saga vintage tee. It's got that retro vibe. All their art is incredibly detailed and vibrant with great printing. They have an absolute ton of graphic tees for you to choose from, and more are coming out all the time. Every purchase supports the artists and creators behind these incredible designs. Whether you're looking to pick up some super last minute holiday gifts or looking for a cool fit for the new year, look no further. Right now you can sign up through the link in the description for an extra 10% off your order from us. I have been enjoying the spit out of 10th edition. I've played tons and tons of games, couple of tournaments, some rogue trader events, and it has been a blast. 10th edition actually feels like a game. I've played against some really cool people. I've fought almost every army in the game. The only ones I'm missing, never played against Votann, and I've never played against Custodes. I think I've played against every single other faction in 40k, including demons. That was a really fun game. I wiped almost the entire army except for the big nasties. I was not even able to scratch Be'lakor before we got to turn 5. I really like 10th edition. I played a bunch of 6th edition, a bunch of 7th edition, a bunch of 8th edition, took 9th edition off, and I came back strong in 10th edition. And I would say, just in terms of the game, every edition has been a lot of fun. 6th edition was a little bit of a mess. I remember, man, that rule book was dense, and that was back in high school, so we never once played the game correctly, but we still had a lot of fun trying to figure out how the actual psychic rules worked for Eldar. I think it took us like an hour of reading the rules to try to figure out how Eldar worked, but we still had a good time. 7th edition, a little bit of a mess. It was actually the shortest edition of 40k. It was a little rough. It fixed some of the things from 6th edition, monsters and vehicles, or there was monstrous creatures, which are now a new type of unit that Games Workshop was trying to flesh out, but it never quite worked. And then there was the actual, the precursor to detachments, which were the back of the codexes would say, if you take this specific army list, you get these benefits. And a lot of those were absolutely busted. Also, allies. Allies were a big thing in 7th edition and kind of in 8th edition, but in 7th edition, it was really bad. I remember fighting an army that was Grey Knights and Orcs and Space Marines, and I think also some Sisters of Battle, all like souped together. I think I lost that game turn 2. I just got absolutely annihilated because my opponent was just bringing all of the best things in 40k, which it didn't quite work out, but there was still some fun to be had in 7th edition. 8th edition was really nice. Early Index 8th edition, where they just completely rewrote the rules, was fantastic. And funnily enough, in that edition, they actually brought back every datasheet that had ever existed in Warhammer 40,000. If anybody remembers, the Plaz Predator tank was from Rogue Trader. It was the last time it actually had a model, which was literally a las cannon sandwiched between 2 plasma guns, like normal Space Marine plasma guns. One of the weirdest things. Every little weird thing like that, like force pikes, everything made it back into the game in 8th edition, which is kind of great because a lot of that stuff has managed to stick around in one way or another in 10th edition Legends. So right now you can technically play with almost anything from 40k's history, which is really cool. And speaking of 10th edition, I really like 10th edition. I've been enjoying the spit out of it, playing lots and lots of games, but there are a couple of things that bother me. Now that we're getting towards the end of 10th edition and we're going to move into 11th edition, which I hope is going to be a soft edition, like a 10.5 edition. I want to keep the detachments. I want to keep the current codexes. There's a couple of little things. I'm not smart enough to balance the game of 40k. Points can go up and down. Almost every army has had its time in the sun. This edition, almost this year, I feel like I've seen tournament winning data for every single faction in the game. I think the game is playing really, really well, but when I'm playing games of Warhammer 40,000, there's just a few things that really irk me while I'm playing the game. One of the big things is army construction. Right now, we're using the rule of threes. You can bring up to 3 of the same data sheet from whatever units that you want. And that's very, very open-ended and means that you can put together some really interesting and unique armies. You don't have to bring any battle line. You don't really have to bring any vehicles if you don't want. You can kind of do whatever you want. And I would say that it's not quite enough. The rule of 3 is too many for some things and not enough for some other things. Like, would the game be broken if I took a 4th squad of Crude Hounds? It would not. That would be absolutely fine. And 3 Rogaldorn battle tanks is more than enough. That is an oppressive number of those tanks. I really don't think rule of 3 is a good enough rule. I like it more than the previous army construction where you had to bring 3 battle line infantry, and then that unlocked a certain number of fast attack, heavy support, and elite units, and then you needed to bring a certain HQ for how many elites and heavy support. Like, there used to be kind of rules of how you put together an army, which would also get annoying because then you wouldn't be able to do all of the things that you wanted to do. But I think rule of 3 needs to be a little bit more specific. And I think the easiest way to fix this would just have army construction be a rule in your codex. That way it could be balanced army by army, and you could just have armies that look the way that you might want them to look. Like a Space Marine bike army, I don't believe there's any detachments that let you take bikes as battle line infantry, so you're maxed out at 3. And you can push that a little bit farther if maybe you play your army as Ravenwing. And so then you can take 3 squads of Ravenwing bikers. Or are there any other actual mounted units for Space Marines? It's really hard to write a bike heavy army because you're stuck with rule of 3. And often you're still able to spam, like for Tau and Crisis Suits. The regular Crisis Suit actual data sheet has been split into 3. And so you can take 3 of the Fire Knife, 3 of the Sun Fury, and 3 of the other one that I'm forgetting the name of. And so you can get a ton of those suits in your army just because that one data sheet has been broken into different ones. And so then those different ones can all take advantage of the rule of 3. But for a lot of other armies, like if you are Genestealer Cult and you want to run a lot of Aberrants, you kind of can't. You can max out 3 squads, but maybe you don't want to max out 3 squads. Maybe you just want to bring a bunch of tiny squads. For my Black Templars army, we have the Venerable Sword Brethren squad, which can be taken in units of 4, which is actually really neat. I think it's like 105 or 110 points for 4, which is actually kind of solid. I would be very tempted to bring like 6 squads of 4. I think that'd be really cool. Or just have like 3, 5, like maybe a 10-man brick, 2 5-man bricks, and then a couple of squads of 4. But I would never really do it because I'm stuck with the rule of 3. So am I going to give up one of my squads to be a tiny 4-man squad when then I'm just missing out on more sword bros? The rule of 3 isn't quite enough to really sink my teeth into. So I think in your codex, it should say on a page, hey, you're playing Black Templars. Here are the things that you can do army construction wise with a Black Templar army. I think it would also be a really nice opportunity to balance the faction a little bit. Like maybe you can only take a Repulsor Executioner if you bring X, Y, or Z. I feel like this would be very appropriate for your Imperial Guard. Like you must take a certain number of Sentinel units or Chimera units before you're allowed to take a Rogaldorn battle tank, because that's almost like a Come the Apocalypse unit. Like it's a really, really big, powerful tank. It wouldn't be deployed to the battlefield unless it was protected by a huge amount of other forces. So I just think there's definitely some shenanigans that can be done with army construction. And Games Workshop kind of agrees, because now that we've seen every single codex come out, there are a lot of weird shenanigans. Like the Emperor's Champion is not a epic hero, so can be taken in more than once, or can be taken up to 3 times, but it says limit 1 per army. It's just like a band-aid rule to stop people from being able to take more. And so I think a lot of other things could use some band-aid rules like that are very specific. Something that goes along with army construction is points. This is the edition where Games Workshop killed the points. And this is one of the biggest pet peeves of a lot of people who've played older editions of 40k moving into this new edition. I don't miss points. Points only matter sometimes. Like Imperial Guard armies, Space Marine armies, the points can matter dramatically because like a Devastator squad of 4 las cannon guys is a very different squad than a Devastator squad with 4 heavy bolters. But a lot of armies really don't care. Like for Necrons, we have very few actual datasheet options. And so it was just annoying to like buy 5 Synaptic Disintegrators for my Death Marks who can't take anything other than Synaptic Disintegrators. So it was just busy work. And tons and tons of armies and tons of datasheets are like that. So there's no real point to those squads having like a base body cost and then having upgrade costs for different war gear and different weapons. So I do not mind losing points for that. I would say though, like I brought up the crisis suits earlier, really nice that got split into 3 different data sheets, not only so that they could be pointsed accordingly, depending on which loadout you're going with, but also so that each one can have its own special rule that is tailored to its unique war gear. I really, really like that. We saw it with the new Black Templar Codex or the new Dark Eldar Codex and the Bat Boys Scourges. The Scourges got split in 2. And so you've got the really, really expensive special weapon team, but then you got the much less expensive, just normal loser guys. And I really, really like that data sheet has been split in half. I think Games Workshop should do a lot more of that. Don't bring back points. I don't want to have 60 orc boys in my list and then have to add on the 60 shootas and then the 60 sluggas and then buy rocket launchers that never hit anything for every 10. Another thing that is not buttering my biscuits is fallback. Fallback is so annoying. It doesn't make any sense that if I've got my squad of guys and I have made it across the board, I have charged into close combat and I have fought tooth and nail, that my opponent can then just walk away. They don't always get to walk away. If they're battle shook, then I think they have to make a desperate escape test. But in general, it just doesn't make any sense that I am fighting you. We are fighting tooth and nail, and then all of a sudden, my opponent is just like, all right, I'm out of here. We should do this again sometime. This has been fun. And then they just walk away, and then my guys are just standing out there in the open to get annihilated by the rest of my opponent's army. It doesn't make any sense. There should be some kind of give and take. Like if they get to make a normal move away from me, I should get to make a normal move. And maybe that move can bring me back into close combat, or I can just try to hop behind a building, or maybe just make a Hail Mary run onto an objective. There should be a little something that my squad gets to do other than just be left high and dry out in the open. There should be some more work to falling back than just, I get to leave now. I don't know how many times I have charged one of Sean's Leman Russ's Rogel Dorans, not managed to kill it, and then it just drives away. And it's not fair. Like it does feel bad in the game. Because melee, there's so many more steps than with shooting. With shooting, you just have to see your opponent and shoot them. But with melee, you have to get there. You have to make your charge. And so there's so many more points of failure that another point of failure could be your enemy just walks away. I don't like it. Games Workshop should come up with a little something to make it better. I do like the idea of if they get to fall back, then you get to make a normal move. And that could actually be a really interesting way to balance certain things. In the game Moonstone, models, if you attack a model that still has energy remaining, then they can make a reaction step of 1 inch. And that can sometimes mean that the fight doesn't get to happen because you've stepped out of their range, or it makes it so that, okay, I would have charged you with Portly Pete, but now I'm gonna charge you with Doug the Flatulent because Doug the Flatulent has 3 inches to his pike. And so even if you do take a reaction step action, you're still gonna be engaged with me because I have that 3 inches on the pike. Like it does add a little bit more tactical nuance to the game than just, I'm gonna walk away now. Speaking of tactical nuance, not all factions can take advantage of the core book stratagems. I don't know why, but for the entire edition, Tyranid have not been allowed to throw grenades or tank shock because they're not literally tanks and they don't literally have belts you can put grenades on. I don't get why. The whole lore of the Tyranid is that they are like constructed organisms that are designed to fight wars. And they for sure do have creatures that resemble grenades. A Carnifex is a tank. If a Tau Riptide gets to tank shock because it has the vehicle keyword, a Carnifex should get to tank shock because it shouldn't be tied into only the vehicle keyword. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, Games Workshop just is weirdly literal with the Tyranid. They don't literally have grenades, so they can't throw a grenade. But for sure, there's some sort of organism that's like a little Furby that they can throw at somebody and then it explodes in a hail of shrapnel or venomous spikes or toxic waste. Like, I don't get why Tyranids don't get to take advantage of some of the stratagems that are in the core book that are meant to be taken by any faction. If almost every single Space Marine datasheet gets to have grenades because the sculptor just put grenades on the belt to make the models look a little bit more interesting. And it is interesting that I think I have almost every single Space Marine unit in my collection. And I do think that the rule is absolutely tied into the actual miniature, because I can't think of any datasheets that don't physically have a grenade somewhere on the miniature that don't have the grenade keyword in the rules. So it does seem like Games Workshop is very, very literal about the grenades keyword, and they don't have to be. Every infantry-like thing should be carrying grenades. Grenades are a fun thing in the game, but you know what is not a fun thing in the game? Overwatch. I don't like Overwatch. I don't like how open-ended it is. It's a core book stratagem. If anything, it's the movement phase or the charge phase. If anything moves within 24 inches of your unit, you can declare that it is going to try to overwatch, and then it gets to shoot only hitting on 6s unless it's a torrent weapon, then it automatically hits, and so you get through that rule. And some units are only good because they're so effectively able to take advantage of the Overwatch stratagem. The Land Raider Redeemer, with its twin Mega Flamethrowers, has had a new lease on life in 10th edition because it so effectively takes advantage of the Overwatch stratagem. I don't like it. I would say that it would be very fair if it was only the fight phase. If something is charging me, then I could use this ability to try to get some shots on the thing that is charging me. That seems fair enough. But in the movement phase, anything in your army moved within 24 inches of anything in my army, then I just get to shoot. And sometimes my thing is really, really good at shooting. There've been so many times over the course of the game where I just don't get to do something because Overwatch would be so devastating. I had a Solarite, or not a Solarite. What's the name of the Harlequin guy? The Solitaire. I had a Solitaire who had a beautiful charge lined up on a squad of guardsmen, but he's just a little Eldar guy. And if they overwatched him, he was gonna die. And I'm like, but he has this once per game thing where he gets to pop off. And there's like a above 50% chance of him just wiping the squad like an absolute champion. But he's probably gonna get melted on the Overwatch. And so I argued with Sean, like, just let me do it. Don't overwatch me. Let me just charge in. And he's like, no, I'm overwatching. And he did. And my guy died. And it wasn't fun. I don't like Overwatch. It should be a little bit more restrictive than it is right now. A lot of stratagems in 40k are very specifically good. Like Tank Shock can give your tank just a little bit more juice to try to destroy your opponent. Similarly with grenades, you do on average 3 mortal wounds to just try to take something out. It gives a lot of units that wouldn't have the capacity to like kind of bump up into something a little bit bigger than they should be able to fight. It just gives them a chance. But Overwatch is not giving you a chance. It is something that you actually strategize around for what in my army is going to take advantage of the Overwatch stratagem and what in my opponent's army do I have to look out for because of the Overwatch stratagem. I was playing a game against Orcs where he had a massive pile of the Shooter Boys, the Flash Gits, with just absolutely tooled up to the nines with different enhancements. And this squad, it just owned that side of the board because it was so powerful on the Overwatch. I think it had sustained hits too, so every 6 rolled was going to absolutely snowball crazily. So I couldn't move any of my units onto that side of the board because they would just get overwatched away. Because also Overwatch is, I think it's measured for at the beginning or the end of your charge. So even if you're trying to charge something that you wouldn't be able to have line of sight to, you still get to overwatch because you just have the overwatch take place once they're in your face at the end of the charge. Like, there's no real good way to avoid it. And Games Workshop kind of agrees. Now with the new Drukhari Codex and the new Eldar Codex, there are specific stratagems built around not letting your, and enhancements, built around not letting your opponent use the Overwatch stratagem on your models. So Games Workshop kind of admits that this is a weird oppressive problem and has some band-aid fixes spread around Warhammer 40,000 to try to make sure that this feels bad moment doesn't happen. Maybe just tweak Overwatch so that it's not as oppressive as it is. I do think it would be fair if you're charging me, then that unit could overwatch the thing that's charging. I think that's fair enough. It makes charges just a little bit harder. Or maybe if Overwatch actually did something with the movement phase, like what if Overwatch, you're shooting at me, so all of a sudden my charge is 2 inches harder to pull off. That could be really, really interesting, especially on the smaller board sizes of 40k 10th edition, the 44x60. I don't fail a lot of charges. I do sometimes, but usually it's with like a double ones where fate decided to not let me do it. Usually I'm charging like 5 inches, 6 inches, 7th edition, or 7 inches is a little rough, but that's like statistically likely on 2 dice. If all of a sudden you could spend Overwatch to make that harder number to roll, that could be a little bit more interesting than just, I'm gonna shoot you in the face. And sometimes guns really, really are able to take advantage of shooting without needing to roll 6s. Sometimes things just have too many guns, like the Rogel Dorn battle tank that I keep bringing up. It has so many guns that you're gonna roll some 6s. And with a lot of 2 damage and flat damage 3 weapons on that thing, can be really, really bad. I've lost a lot of Space Marines to Rogel Dorn Overwatch, which feels yucky. Any rule that lets you just have more actions in the game, because that's kind of what Overwatch is. It's letting you have more actions. You get to shoot in your turn and you get to shoot in the opponent's turn. That really, really bumps up the damage power of certain things. And so I think it just needs to be toned down a little bit, maybe made a little bit more specific, maybe have some more nuance to that rule than just, if anything in the game moves within 24 inches of anything else, you get to try to shoot. Don't like it. Honestly, those are all the things I can think of for just the things that irk me while I'm playing 10th edition. I really like 10th edition. One of the coolest things is the new mission deck with the cards. The secondary mission deck is really, really fun. You draw 2 cards at the start of your command phase, and you're like, okay, what am I trying to do? You know, because I'm trying to kill my opponent, I'm trying to not die, I'm trying to stand on objectives, but now there's some wild cards of what am I trying to do? Maybe, so one of the cards is like, stand in the middle of the board without having enemies around the center of the battlefield, be in different table quadrants, kill heroes, kill giant units, kill vehicles. Like, the secondary mission deck is really, really cool, and it's been getting refined. We saw the first Leviathan mission deck, and then the Pariah Nexus mission deck, and now we're on something else. I have it, I don't remember what it's called. But it's this kind of the same cards over and over and over, but they have gotten refined. I think the Leviathan mission deck was really, really fun, but some cards were almost impossible for certain armies to pull off, and it's just kept getting better and better and better until the new mission deck, you kind of always can do it. You might not be able to do it fantastically, but you'll always be able to get some points off of it if you try. And I think that risk reward of, if I try, I'll get a little something, is better than, oh, I had a bad draw, so I'm just not gonna score points. They've kind of come up with a lot of really, really clever ways of just tooling this deck to make it really, really fair and balanced. One card that was really impossible to pull off with Pariah Nexus was your opponent nominates 3 units, and you have to kill one of those 3 units. And it's so easy to make that just completely unviable. Like, oh, I pick the thing that's in a transport, I pick another thing that's in a transport, and I pick the guy holding my home field objective way in the back. You can't possibly do that, so you lose. Now, the opponent still does that, and you score some big points if you manage to pull that off, but you still get 2 points because you can nominate a model in their army, and if you kill that, then you get 2 points. You get a little something. So I really like the way that this has kind of worked its way through 10th edition to just get better and better and better, and it's already a really fun mechanic that makes the game more fun to play. Oh, one more little thing that is a pet peeve of mine. Tanks are too good. They're too good, and they're not as much fun to play against as regular dudes because they don't have the pitfalls of being a regular dude. Like, my Centurion Devastator squad is very much a vehicle. It's kind of what it is. It's a bunch of las cannons and a bunch of missile launchers on some 2-up save bodies. But if I lose a guy, if I lose 33% of my squad, I am 33% less effective in the game. And if I lose another guy, I get even worse, to the point where, like, if one Centurion is left alive, my opponent might just be able to ignore it or not care about it so much because its damage potential is so far removed from where it was. Where a tank, if I kill half a tank, that tank is still as good as ever. It is still maximally powerful, and there should be some more scaling for vehicles because there is at the very end, like when you get down to a third or a quarter of its wounds remaining, it does have -1 to its hits, but there should be a little bit more to it than just that, because there's been many a time where a vehicle is just not hurt enough, and so it is completely fresh as if it was never shot at to begin with. In older 40k, there was actually a vehicle damage chart, and I don't think that they should bring this back necessarily, but a version of it would be good, because every time you took like penetrating damage, you would roll on this chart and something bad could happen to your tank. You could lose one of the guns on it, you could get immobilized, which happened to me all the time for some reason, but you're not allowed to move, you're not allowed to shoot one of your guns in particular. It was really interesting, and it definitely made it so that there was benefits to being a regular foot slogging guy, more so than just being a tank. Because right now, tanks are really, really good. Tanks are like a whole bunch of guys taped together and made invulnerable until they're not. Like if my opponent's tank can see one guy peeking behind a building, he can shoot the entire squad. But if that one guy can see the tank, only he gets to shoot at the tank. Like there's no real risk reward to vehicles versus infantry. Vehicles are kind of just flat better, and I would like to see them not just be flat better. I think it would make them more interesting. Like a vehicle should be tough and it should be tanky, but it shouldn't just be better. If you just think about it, the turret of a tank, it's probably hard for it to actually pinpoint a guy. Tanks should probably be a little bit less effective at killing, but very, very effective at staying alive. I would say that if vehicles can maybe move in that kind of direction, as opposed to just, there's no difference between a vehicle and one guy. The vehicle's stat line is just pushed so much harder than a normal guy. Like there should be a little more something going on. And I would like to see that change with 11th edition. 10th edition is pretty good right now, but what's something that's even better than 10th edition? EonsOfBattle.com. EonsOfBattle.com is the place to find all sorts of great hobby goodies. We got wet palettes, we got brushes, we got paints, we got texture paste, we got dirty down products, we got all sorts of good stuff, and we also have terrain. It's the best way to support us doing what we do by getting a membership. Each month, members get a credit good for any terrain pack we have ever made, or the brand spanking new one. Our new terrain for December, the Bubble City. Embrace your inner amphibian with this alien encampment. A truly unique series of aquatic structures like the Bubble House, Bubble Command Center, and Bubble Fortress. And it's not just buildings, it also has some powerful defenses in the turret and shield walls. Get ready to get immersed in some underwater goodness perfect for all the popular war games. 10th edition has been an awful lot of fun. Upcoming in the new year, I know my local game store is going to be gearing up to be hosting more Rogue Trader tournaments, and I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready to get back on the competitive 40k circuit. I don't know what army I'm going to be running yet. I might go back to my Black Templars, I might do my Necrons, I might do my Kroot if I can get that army up and running, maybe even a little bit of Death Guard if I can manage to paint some more Plague Marines. I don't know. But you know what I do know? 5 years ago, we made a video, the periodic table of Space Marines, and it's pretty cringy, but I really, really like it. We worked so hard on it. I did all of the artwork for the video and the lyrics, and Nick did the animation. And I would love it if any of you guys, if you want to see something cute and cringy, if you check out the video. It was so much work for nothing. But it is kind of a cool thing. I'm weirdly proud of it. And I don't think that it gets the attention that it deserves. So if you check it out, please leave a comment letting me know that you watched it this year and that you saw it and you got a chance to experience it, because we don't do things like that anymore, and for good reason, but it's I don't know. It's a really neat little thing that we did once upon a time. And don't forget to click the link in the description to get a cool Into the AM shirt today.